Mr. Marino,
Mr. Hurd.
the Atomic CEO podcast.
Yes, the Atomic CEO podcast.
Yeah, Atomic CEO podcast, just say it a bunch of times because here's the problem. Be the CEO, which is what we do, is completely dominated by Stephen Bartlett of Diary of the CEO. Good job, Stephen. You're forcing us to change our name because you can't even fucking find us when you
I
look
know.
for us because everything's Stephen. So, Atomic CEO podcast, that's what we had to rebrand this as. But it's the same thing, man. We're helping people be the CEO. And what we do now is we bring people on that have actually become their own CEO. CEO, it's a bullshit term with a suit and a tie. I'm in an office. That's not what we mean. What we mean is like someone who is in the charge of their business, their life, they're leading it. And today we have our good friend, TJ Arella from 8 Well here. What's up, TJ?
Going on, guys? Appreciate you guys having me on. Real quick side note on your name also, that something that hit me was it's your two names. Did that ever occur to you? Is that why you guys did it?
That is
Uh,
actually
you
why
know,
we named. Look at you. Look at the big brain on Brad.
there's not
Yes,
many people
that's why
that
we
get it,
named it this way.
TJ.
That's it.
It originally was Adam Business Coaching, ATOM.
Gotcha.
And it was like Adam and Tom and Adam, energy, all this stuff. And you might have met him before, my friend Andreas, his fiance, or actually wife now, official. His wife, he did a TJ wedding where we didn't even know. And next weekend they're like, we're married. Like, I don't know. It's that generation, Tom. It's that generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, TJ, you got married? I missed
yeah.
that.
So she's like, listen, Adam is kind of man, and they may get confused. They may think you're talking about you. What about Atomic? Because you guys are Atomic. And we're like, that's it. And that's been the name since. So good catch, TJ.
You got it. That's good. Real good.
Yeah. So, hey, bro, we've gotten to know you over the last 3 years. We have so much admiration for you. You're part of one of our masterminds that we are all inclusive of it. So you bring as much to us as we bring to you and the guests that we bring in there. So those CEO masterminds have been a savior for me. It's a place that I can go and actually get some wisdom because I'm imparting it so much all day long. I get to be a little bit more vulnerable. So you've been really helpful, and we've hooked up outside of that, just talking about things. The three of us and then two of our other buddies, Steve and Ed, started recording a podcast on the low a few
Did
months
you really?
back. We a little bit. We'll see when it comes out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it came out.
But you're a young man. Tom and I are old men. Tom's much older than me, much, much older than me. But you're a young man. And we admire how much hustle, how much professionalism you bring to the game of fitness. So why don't you first tell everybody who you are, what you do, and if you want, what really differentiates the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, right. TJ Arella, Long Island, just like you guys, right? Local guy. Fitness, right? Fitness was always the game, trying to be an athlete growing up and learning what I needed to do to get there. I was never the biggest or strongest guy, but always tried to have the work ethic. That kind of took me into the realm of seeing kind of what I needed to do and then being like, oh, I could instill this in people. I always had a pretty strict mindset. So taking that, I realized I wanted to be on the other side of it and trying to train and develop. And then my partner Tyler and I met right back in 2021. A couple months later, he said, "Yo, let's grab coffee." We said, "Let's do this thing." Right. And our differentiator, right, small group strength training studio based out of Huntington, New York. Kind of specialize in a more intimate setting, a lot of more attention to detail than most studios or most kind of group gyms. 8 to 10 people maximum. We try to keep it per group class. Gen Pop, right? And then we do a ton of private training on the outside of it, right? And we kind of take the full force approach of wellness, and we're really trying to grow that with, you guys know Nick, and some of the medical nutrition side. So we're really trying to put all the pieces together, and I feel like our full scope of viewing everything is, everybody might think about it that way, but they really, I think that's our differentiator in the full worldly scope of what we do, right? And we're trying to constantly push the full scope because we're trying to see, well, what does an individual need inside the training? Yes. And how many different ways can we look at the body inside the training to help a person or progress, regress, and exercise, all these different things. It's not just one way fits or one size fits all. But in the whole grand scheme, right? How are we creating a good system for someone to live their lifestyle within our hub, not like way beyond the fitness and the physicality, right? I think for us and for me, I realized it started with fitness for an individual because that's the first spot for them to hone in on their self, go deeper on on themselves, for them to get vulnerable inside and in front of other people, right? Specifically us. So that was kind of the first thing I saw of like, wow, this almost isn't, it's not all about fitness. It's a tool to kind of break down the individual. And now these adults are coming out, 22, 23-year-old kid out of college, and I started coaching. I was like, wow, these adults are listening to me. I was
Yeah.
like, that was a flip that I went through. So I was like, that's interesting. I was like, my mentality holds something. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of it, and when you because you started this as a coach and you were really helping people. But as you migrated to having this as a business, what are some of the beliefs that you had to change when you're like, "Hey man, I was a coach, I was a personal trainer, I'm helping people get fit, healthy, happy, jacked, whatever it may be," to where now like, "Wow, I'm gonna run a business." Were there any beliefs inside of you that you had to either eliminate or bring on to yourself? Because that's a lot of what we see with people is believe, behave, become. So, what would you say impacted you, or some things that allowed your journey to take place?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I, right, I am, and Tyler and I both, to include us for the whole business, we try to reverse engineer everything and are continually in the sense of how do we need to build it to grow and scale the business overall, right? Um, I think some of the biggest realizations, one big one was being, I think I mean, honestly, you guys have helped a ton in the past couple years. Just seeing the mindset of like, it's not supposed to be easy, right? And just flat out letting myself hear that and flat out saying, oh, okay. The nitty gritty of every single thing that I do that makes me a great coach is great. And I can pull those things out and reflect on those things and say, okay, this is what I need my branding to be. This is what I want to push the model with. These are the values I want to instill in my coaches, in the brand, to keep the high quality. Um, but on the other hand, it was like from you guys specifically to help me realize like there are no one's ever going to be me, and that always is the biggest and hardest realization because I mean, as a personal trainer, you're doing everything. You have to do everything, right? You're a trainer 10% of the time, writing programs, but you're into finance. You have to manage certain things a certain way. You have to manage your own lifestyle a certain way, right? A lot of business owners try to grow and get in the nitty gritty of everything, and they almost lose themselves, and their health falters, right? You see a lot of guys with a lot of money or a very successful business, and their health falters. My business is about health. So while I'm trying to do certain things, these realizations were like, I still have to upkeep myself to the best of my ability 100%, while also realizing that I need to see how I can get the best out of the other people that are going to be coming on underneath me. And then also in turn, instilling that into my clients and realizing on top of that, no coach is going to be me. No coach is going to live up to 100% of every single value, but they have their own great value systems that I might be able to learn from
Mhm.
too. um, I think the biggest thing was just being comfortable with that and realizing like, hey, these are a couple points I can sit and reside with. It is as simple as saying, oh, these 5 things that I realized are actually tangible things that make my coaching great or make the gym great or things I can instill. So I think in a simple way to put, it was just like you guys say business is simple, it's not easy, and that's held so true. Once I heard it, I kept it's like shower thoughts, right? I keep thinking about it and I'm like, fuck, dude, it is simple. But I'm like, I really gotta pick my phone up as soon as the thought comes in and write it down and do it 85,000 times over the next 6 months so that I can really, really pick everything apart and be tedious, right? But honing in on that has been an interesting journey, as I'm sure it has been for so many guys that you've worked with and business owners in general trying to grow and get past that practitioner to the delegator to the growth factor, really, I think.
You alluded to it a little earlier when you said you didn't believe that adults were listening to you, right? You were 23 years old, they weren't listening to you. A lot of people take on that limiting belief, that imposter syndrome, that like, I don't belong here. What would be something you would say to somebody that's feeling that right now from what you believed once you realized that people were listening to you?
I would say the proof is in the pudding and just say fuck it and do it. Keep doing it. Plain, right? It's simple. Let go
Mhm.
of it. Let go of yourself. Let go of the BS inside of you. You're going to be your biggest fan and supporter 100% of the rest of your life, but you're also going to be your biggest limiting factor 100% of the rest of your life.
Yeah, the other thing you said too is that when you had the ability to realize, like, not everybody's going to give the attention that you give to these things, and that's where most business owners get very frustrated. But then you said something really, really key is that they're going to bring their own set of values, and that's the thing is I've noticed lately in your business you're starting to talk more about culture, and it's interesting when you start to realize the culture that our staff, our vendors, even your clients will bring to your organization that you will adopt. And you're like, wow, that's pretty interesting way of going about doing this thing. Or I really like the effect on that. Or I really like the sound of it or the feeling of it, whatever it may be. And that's something that I think that you have, whether you know it or not, that you have adopted in your belief system is that other people can contribute to Eat Well as well. And it's not just your thing, it's growing into its own, it's like a baby, right? It's its own
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Um, so as you started to understand these things, what we always say is your beliefs drive your behaviors, right? And like if you believe you're a fit person, you're probably going to work out more at your gym. And if you believe you're fat and out of shape and lazy, you're probably just going to pay for a membership and not show up. We probably like some of those people at other gyms, not your gym though. We want people to show up.
Yeah.
So, what are some of those behaviors that then came from your new belief system?
Um, I don't know if there's any key behaviors, but I think it's realizing that it's like careful what you want to become and what you ask for, you know, because you're going to get it and you're going to have to go and get it, right? I think in a sense. I don't think there was anything that was such a clear line, but it was more like
Well, let
there's
me
so
ask
much
it a
more.
different way then. When you
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
that while I'm the leader of the company, and Tyler just as much as well, but when you guys are co-leaders of the company, what are things? How did you have to act? How did you have to behave to really reflect that new belief that you had? To really be like, wow, I'm here. Not just training, because you can train, you can open the doors, let people in, and make them sweat and feel good. But now you had a company to run. Now you had staff to make sure they were doing their jobs. Now you had feedback that you had to get, iterations that you had to make. So, what are some things that you noticed in your transition from just being a coach to being really a business owner in those daily behaviors, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, that you're like, wow, that was a different type of behavior than I had before that really effectuated change and the growth of this company?
I mean, I think simple like trust in people, but also being a little bit more, being like tending or putting a little more attention to what everyone else is doing, while also being extremely comfortable in realizing like, okay, this is me, this is myself, this is my value system, this is what we actually are and what's good at what makes us good. So screw it. I'm going to continually say that and put it out there and represent that. Right. As much as I could quietly represent it because it's just me being myself. If I was only a personal trainer by myself, it just exhibits, through those that know me in my training and stuff. But now it's like, oh, I gotta rep this entire thing all the time and be this. I think all the time. And I think just being way more attentive, the shift was way more attentive to the things that are the small things for myself. Small things that are the little tiny nuances that make um, the business function. Understanding, right, from going to say, okay, we're going to open the gym, structure pricing a certain way and sell it a certain way for us. Okay, cool. But then I was like, wait a second, there's a whole method to like, now there's another coach talking about it and having to sell it and having to have these conversations. Oh, no, they didn't say it this way, even though for me, that was the first way that I would have said it.
Right.
Oh, these things aren't second nature for that person. So I was like, okay, reversing and saying like, wait, is this really just me? Or is this really, are these processes or things that I go through really special? I think that's it. I think it's saying like not special or saying like, oh, they're better than everybody else's, but saying like, you have to carry the weight of realizing that all the things that you always have to do, you got to keep digging them up out of the soil and saying like, this is great. No, maybe it's not.
Yeah, so
shit.
it's almost like having a good memory, right? Having a good memory
Yeah,
and a pattern recognition, systematic
yeah.
approach
Mhm.
to going through and making sure that you can pull those up out of the file cabinet in your brain or actually on your computer.
Yeah.
But you also said 2 other very, very key things, which I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say it out loud. You said that 2 of the behaviors was really paying attention to what all the others needed in there, and then paying attention to the details, and that's a key thing is when you are the leader, you now have people. You have people that are gonna take on other items in your business and lift those up for you, no pun intended with the gym, but they'll lift those for you, and you have an opportunity to pay attention to the details, and so many business owners don't wanna do that. It's like they wanna stay in their lane because that's what got them here, and switching off your behaviors to like, all right, I I now work for you, my employees, my staff. You know, we're used to working for our clients, but we all who are CEOs, we work for our staff and for our organization. Like they don't work for us. And that is, it sounds like what you've just said. I would ask one other question then on the behavior. So you said that as you then really became the CEO, you have to pay attention to your own health, especially a guy who does it for a living. So what behaviors did you change? Because before it was like coach a client, work out, stay in my routine. Now you have other people pulling at your schedule, pulling at your time, and you have to go and run the back of the house and do the P&Ls and make sure, you know, all the inventory is done. So how did you, because this is something we see so many people have a difficult time with is success in one area leads to this complacency or falling off a cliff on another area. So how have you managed that?
Kinda wanna say, like, Matt well, obviously, I'm fortunate enough to be in a gym all the time, right? So I'm there already. That's one thing. I've egotistically told myself I never wanna put on a suit and tie to go to work since I'm a kid and say, "I wanna do what I wanna do and be in the space that I wanna be in." I've done it. And it's same thing, be careful what you wish for, because now you're in it. Up at 4 a.m. some days to 10, right? Because I'm still running certain clients that are it's hard to get rid of clients and move them on. Um, and doing all the in between things, just I think just capitalizing on time, but being even stricter on myself, right? It's like I was a very strict kid growing up. I had these values in me of I'm not gonna drink, I'm not gonna do this. This made me feel better, like I was getting ahead, getting ahead, getting ahead. But then it's like, okay, like you want to go to bed early? Now you got to do it every day, dude. Let's keep knocking it down, right? Keep knocking down those dominoes one after one. Don't miss one. It's just knowing what makes me function well and knowing what's going to bring the best me to the table to the business. Because I feel like if I miss one of those dominoes, or a couple in a row at least, I feel like I don't show up the best for myself, right? I don't know if there's been anything that's wholeheartedly changed. But I would say for anyone out there that's actually going through this transition and certain things are falling off, find a system for you that works. Find the core things that you need for yourself 100% of the time. And it's funny, Adam, I think in one of our conversations last year in a Zoom that we had, I said, what is my motto for 2025? And even just moving into 2026 was become the better version of myself, but don't leave my old self behind or don't
Mm,
leave myself behind. I think I said that on one of our Zooms. First time I thought of it, actually. Thinking back though, it's more so like I think this past year has been the biggest year that I've become that version of myself that I've continuously wanted to be and accepted like these are the things that I have to do to really be, on top of my game and be an A player, and then also keeping the little things for myself that I need to put forth. Not even in an entertainment or fun sense. I think it's like if you really like you're the one that's putting yourself here, right, as a business owner. You can go take a job. So I think dry and cut, like, just be careful what you're doing because you're in it. You put yourself in this. You asked for it. Now play the role, right? Now play the role. You got to show up for your wife. You got to show up for your family. You still got to show up for all these other XYZs, right? Um, and I think it's a shame when people let those things falter. But I think it's just simple setting rules for yourself and crushing them and don't letting them dictate your life or not letting them dictate your life. But you have right control to dictate your life if you want to let the foot off the gas pedal once in a while, but knowing that you're going to get right back in and drive that car tomorrow.
TJ, it's so interesting the way I've seen even like your own evolution. I have the privilege of seeing you in action at times, especially when I bring my son to the gym. And I can see you being both practitioner and coach and then being the CEO at the same time. I can see you're thinking about things, you're making notes of things that you have to work on later on. Like, how did you get to that place? Like, what were some of the things that you had to change and how did you, because a lot of people get stuck in one role and they don't know how to get into the other roles. But I've seen you actually do it. Like, is there a specific behavior thing that you have adopted that allows you to do that?
I don't know specifically, but I think that just being a trainer and realizing what that job is and me having to show up and lead the best for my client, right? And you might have a book of 10 different clients, you see 10 different people for 10 different hours, so I was already changing my suit 10 different times or slightly different, even though it was me showing up, right? There's that last 15% that changes for depending on the person or how to deal with the person or what to say to the person, or what to ask the person. So I think I just took that and said, like, okay, like I'm flipping it and looking at myself, talking to myself all day long. And I'm almost checking my own boxes, and writing my own program kind of in a sense. That's almost what it feels like, I guess, in a way to describe it. Um, I'm talking in a lot of concepts right now because there aren't a lot of things to hit the nail on the head. Sometimes it's just like entrepreneurship can be just like word vomit. And it's like you just threw up a bunch of letter shaped noodles, like now go and spell a word out of them. You know what I'm saying? Like in a weird analogy, that's what it feels. It's like, okay, grab, 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 grab. These thoughts just hit my head. Let me put 5 of them down and just put those 5 down and start with those 5.
Well,
And then do
it's
nothing
funny that you
but
say that because that's exactly why we do this podcast is because so many people think there's like some magic bullet or there's some perfect formula or there's a
that's
framework.
that's that's the realization I think I've had. There isn't. It's all just absolute fucked up shit,
Yes.
and it's just like right? So we've had this conversation about schooling, and I'm just going to go here for a second because schooling gives the individual everything, right? I can't wait till my class schedule comes out. Kids are taught for here's your schedule, here's what you're doing every hour. The teacher's going to tell you what to do every minute of every hour, and then you're going to do these assignments that we just gave you. Now flip it. You have to go to school and also draw your own schedule out, be the teacher for your own schedule for whatever subject you're working on for the hour, right? And constantly facilitate that. And I think that's the burden that all entrepreneurs and business owners carry. And no one realizes until they're in it. And that's why people can't relate to it that aren't in it because they're not clocking in and clocking out and not worrying. It's always there.
That's a good way of saying it because you're not
Great way.
told what to, you're both the teacher and the student and you're the janitor and it's like you're everything to it at once.
Uh-huh.
Here's what I've noticed about you, um, to use my letter shaped noodle salad that I'll throw up on you.
This episode brought to you by Alphabet Soup. Well, you gotta just put the words together.
It's funny. So here's what I've noticed about you is you're just disciplined no matter what. All things that you do, you're just very, very disciplined in them. And the way I always have looked at discipline is like you're doing the things that you hate to do, but you do them like you love them. You're not singing songs, you're not showing up all happy and everything, but you're like, okay, I'm going to do this anyway. I think Mike Tyson said that once. But that's really what it takes. And we always, CEO, we sell all our shirts and everything. It says commitment, effort, obsession. And that's what it's really about. Discipline is really like I'm committed to it. There's this whole thing that we observe in people all the time and we say you're interested, you're not committed. And what we say is when you're interested in something, all it really means is you'll do this. You really will. You'll go out and do it, but you're only going to do it when it feels good. You're only going to do it when it's convenient. You're only going to do it when it's like, I like this. When you're committed, you do it no matter what. It's like, I am doing that. And you are both committed and disciplined. And everything that we've seen you do, at least what we've had the privilege of seeing you do, it's very, very disciplined. I mean, there's some times when we are on Zoom meetings just hanging out for fun, not coaching or anything like that. and it's past 9 o'clock, and you have, the blue blocker glasses on, you look like Bono and everything else, but that's a discipline. You're like, I don't care if I look strange right now. It doesn't really matter because it's giving me the effect that I want and allows me to be who I want to be, not only today in this meeting, but tomorrow morning when I wake up at 4 a.m. And that
Mhm.
that exudes out. That is the culture that you are creating. So, Tom, why don't we pivot to the last section? As we're coming up on 25
I just want
minutes.
to say,
Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing before you guys go on that discipline note, because I think it hit me for a second. Um, I think the biggest thing I've changed within me is just when I have a thought, choose the positive thought and do it.
Mm.
Execute. Like you have that lazy, right? It's like devil angel, but it's like lazy work. Lazy
Yeah, we
work.
call it the bitch and the boss.
Yes. Right. I think it's saying, okay, what did I used to do with the mentality of I'm in high school, I have baseball the next morning. Screw my friends, I'm going to bed early because that makes me feel lined up. That's only one choice I really had to make out of the span of 2 or 3 weeks, maybe because I had a game early on a weekend every couple of weeks. I think the biggest thing I've realized is saying like, oh, that choice, but now apply it to every single little thing in life. As the hours get shorter, the days get longer, there's less time in between, and you can always do more. And I think it just goes to show for my marriage, around the house, in the business. I think for me, it's like, okay, like dog needs to be fed. You could always say, I don't feel like it. Feed the dog right now. Do it. The thought just hit your mind. Execute on it. Do it. You want to sit on the couch? Dishes are in the sink. My job's doing the dishes. She does the laundry. Do the dishes. Just do it. It's 8:30 at night. Do the dishes. Just get it done because it takes 3 minutes, but you're going to sit on the couch for 20. You're going to contemplate and you're not going to get it done the way that you want it. And you allow yourself to breathe, right? I think always looking out for your future self because that same thing entail was saying, okay, business mentality versus, okay, this is just how I live my life. And how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Well, I think that like to close out the believe, behave, become, it sounds like the actions that you have taken have allowed you to become this person that you are and become the owner of this business. And that repetition of those actions is what allows you to be this CEO, to be the owner. Would you agree that it's just the action, or is it more than that? Is it just taking actions over and over, or is there something else that you allows you to be this person now?
I think it's just taking action over and over, but in the emotional human mind, it's never that simple, right? It's never that, so it doesn't feel that simple, at least. But it ideally is, right? If 1 + 1 = 2, just keep doing that. Just keep just keep solving the equations. Then the voice comes in, I don't wanna, blah, oh, da, 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 da. Cool. And you see fit. But it's always the binary decision of, is this gonna help or is it not gonna help?
Yeah.
And I think it's just get it done. And I hold that near and dear to me from when I was a kid. I was a chubby kid going downstairs throwing temper tantrums in 7th, 8th grade. Chubby, like, what do I need to do to get here? I need to eat healthy for the rest of my life. Shit. Okay, no, no, you don't. But I would walk down to the freezer, take ice cream out, look at it, and then as a kid, I got so fed up in 7th grade. I was like, "Is this going to help me or hurt me? It's going to hurt me. Put it back. See ya. Walk upstairs." You know. And it's kind of just like you just start flipping those switches. It's a little extreme to say it that way, but I think that's what it is, plain and simple, you know? It's just making the decisions and doing them and, like,
Oh,
doing the actions repetitively.
yeah,
But
it that's exactly what you just said. You made conscious decisions, intentional decisions, and you followed through with those decisions with the right actions, and that's what's really made you become this person, and that's what allows you to be disciplined. That's what allows you to be committed, and those are all the things that a lot of business owners lack is that uncertainty of the decision. They don't know what action to take because they don't know what the decision really is, and that's why they go through all these difficult challenges and never become that person they set out to become is because they can't execute on it.
All right. So I got two more questions. One at the end that we ask everybody, but a lot of people who are starting their businesses, they always dream about when I become the CEO, when I'm making all this money, when I'm doing all this stuff. So why don't you give them like a peek behind the curtain? What has really changed when you became the CEO?
I think just, like, taking attention to the nitty-gritty, what has really changed is getting up with way more of an intention every single day and not just letting the hours kind of that because I'll put it in a sense of right like I gave myself a job as a trainer. I was just employing myself and I still do. I train, a decent amount throughout the week with hour to hour. But I realized, okay, like those hours are set on a Sunday. I need to set other tasks all the time, just like those are training hours and line those up. I think that's been the biggest but simple thing is making the swap and just saying like, there's always placement for something else to get done. And there's always placement, to relax and to recharge because the recoup is if valuable, if not as if even more valuable than the actual work itself. But I think yeah, I think making sure I'm recharged
Yeah, but
and
you said the
live.
key thing, it's you're intentional about your day, you're intentional about the recharge, you're intentional about enjoying the time that you do have free for yourself, so that's really good. Tom, you wanna ask the final question? You got it or no?
So I think I've
I
had it.
think
We've
you
done
got
these
it,
a
Tom.
couple of times.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think I
it's a
got
little
it.
challenge we do for everybody
Okay.
at the end
So
of each thing
TJ,
to give the audience who maybe hasn't started a business yet, a way to maybe think about how simple, yet really, really difficult it is. So go ahead, Tom.
so TJ, if we gave you $10,000 to start a business and you only had 2 hours a day to work on that business, what would you do?
And you had 1 year's time,
1 year's time, right, to do it.
so
One
to
one
make sure that it is sustainable from there on out. $10,000 in cash, here you go. 2 hours a day, every day, that's it, and 1 year time.
oof, where I'm at now, I think I've built a ton of tools in my toolbox and a self-realization way of saying, okay, I can teach somebody to do a lot of good things in the industry that I'm in at probably a 99th percentile level, hopefully, right? And put them in as a great coach. I would say I would pay somebody about $1,000 or $500 to get them started, or two people, 500 each, to intern with me, and I would start to grow certain clients out of a gym that I'd pay uh, I independent contracted like rent as. So those people trained under me. They were coaches I would start. I had 9 grand over and I would start to leak that into certain marketing, certain energy and efforts of actually putting towards certain things, potentially a course or something like that for the coaches to learn. And I would think that that would start to flourish because the best growth factor in training is always, I feel like, word of mouth and branding that you carry over.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I would run it that way. I wouldn't just
Like it,
go
man. My favorite part is I would go get 2 people, teach them what I do, have them go deploy that, and then behind the scenes, I would run the machine, and I'd use someone else's facility. I wouldn't have to worry about overhead, anything else. I'd pay them a fee, train these guys, and then I'd go run the machine. Like,
yeah.
that is
I would
that
cut
is
I
an
mean,
incredible way. So
okay,
if
and I
anybody's
would
out
cut a
there trying to
deal,
think,
and first I would cut a deal too with a person and say, "Hey, like, I will give you $100 a week to let these people train out of here." So I would probably try to set some type of price cap and ceiling for myself so that any revenue after that is just about profit and unlimited that I can start to pocket, pay the trainers, and pocket for myself to reinvest.
I love it,
And
dude.
this is exactly what makes you a CEO, because the first thing you did was not take on all the work.
Yeah.
The first thing you did was delegate it to other people, other resources. And that's what so many people starting out don't do. They take everything on and then they wind up being run by the business instead of them running the business. And right out the gate, TJ, you're like, I'm running the fucking business. I'm going to delegate this, give this, do this. And that's what's going to happen. And your work is minimal in that process.
And you know what's actually what's interesting? I listened to Danny Del Vecchio's podcast with you guys. Like, he's also right, we have our dinner tonight, he's coming. So I wanted to be like, okay, who's this guy first off? And I said, all right, let me listen. I heard the $10,000 thing, and that aligns with him. But I was like, digital marketing, like I wouldn't do that because I don't know how to navigate that at all. I was like, no. I was like, no, 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 no. But I was like, I'm in the shower. I'm like, all right, dry off, go on about my day. Forget about it. Maybe think about it one other time in the last couple of days. I didn't think of that idea or even remotely close to it. And I want to roll this into a concept. I just thought about it now on spot and started building the creation of it in my head to something that I could probably deploy tomorrow or someone else could listen and take. And I think I just want to say, just goes to show you that when you're put on the spot and you do take the leap as an entrepreneur, you will figure it out, and you will pull more who the hell knows what out of yourself that you didn't even realize you had, if you didn't take the leap and do it. And I think that entrepreneurship and being around you guys and the energy that we've kind of that I've taken in, I'll never regret it, even if the gym were to shut down and fail, because people say it's true, right? You learn so much building a business. It is true. But for me, I was like, there's got to be ways that I can really test myself and build myself. And I'm continually doing that every day. Um, and I always think like, oh, it could be easy just to charge a ton to train and be a personal trainer. And maybe I should have stuck with that when you have your hard days, right? But then I'm like, no, 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 this thing's going to grow. But for myself, I've learned and done so much, and I've ripped apart the little child inside of me to be like, yo, this is who he used to be. Look at him, he's
Right.
hanging right here. You just killed him. You throw him away, right? And it's just I feel like I've pulled so much out of myself that I never ever thought that I would have. um so yeah, just wanted to kind of give that little tidbit and say, anyone out there, do it. Just do it, because you
Dude,
guys
I
work with
love
so
it,
many
and be on the
amazing
spot and take
people.
that inspiration and turn it into action. I always say the only way inspiration is good is when you turn inspiration into perspiration. So go do the work from that. So, you've given us some great feedback here, ways to think. What's if someone wants to continue and see what you guys are all about, what you're into, what you're doing, where would they find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can find us 8well.life on Instagram, 8well Facebook. We have a YouTube page. We have podcasts at the Well Life Podcast. Have some cool guests on, and then my personal is at TJ Arella, Arella, right, on Instagram. So that's probably the best spot to hit me.
And then, if any of our clients or anybody here who watches or anybody in our audience of network can help you, what kind of clients or what kind of business? What are you looking to get from them?
I don't know. That's a loaded that's a loaded question.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. I would just say I want to connect with real people. That's really it. Real connections with real people. That's it. That's the bottom line. I think
Well,
that's
brother,
it.
you're a real dude, man. This is why we've been very lucky to be around you, and I know you've said that you're lucky to be around us many times. Like, we really appreciate each other so much, and looking forward to being old men together one day, helping these young bucks out. So thanks again for doing this today. We think it'll really help a lot of people start that process or move really from being that practitioner into being the CEO of their life and their business. So thanks again, pal.
Yeah, you got it, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.